for the week May 30th to June 5th, 2014. Our top news stories in this week's Speeding Bulletin include: a robbery sequence was reportedly filmed for Batman vs Superman earlier in May, a man in Paducah sold his comic book collection for $1.5 million, and this time next week the Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois will be in full swing. Let's find out more about these stories and others in this week's Speeding Bulletin. In movie news, cngnews.com reports that a robbery sequence for Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice may have been the subject of a film shoot that took place at a party store in the city of Keego Harbour earlier in May. City manager Linda Voll said she was told that the film crew scouted over 100 locations for the scene and selected Lake Point Market, located at Orchard Lake Road and Pridham Street. For confidentiality purposes, only a select number of people knew about the Batman v Superman filming in Keego Harbour, including the West Bloomfield Fire Department, and Voll said information was on a need-to-know basis. Sources close to the production of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice have told BatmanNews.com that filming on a LexCorp scene will be filmed across June 12th to June 13th. LexCorp is described as a young, edgy company. Think of it as a .com or Google-type workplace with a stylish vibe. Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg, is expected to be in the scene. A big military scene is also rumoured to be shot sometime in the next week. However, rumours of Emily Blunt from Edge of Tomorrow being in the new movie are not true. Television host and comedian Chris Hardwick was a special guest on Larry King Now this week, and he spoke about the seemingly negative reaction to the title of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice across the internet. Listen to what he had to say.
What do you care?
You know why? Because the louder voices on the internet are always the negative ones. Because anger and hate is a more powerful motivator to action than, oh, that sounds nice. Like if I think, oh, that sounds nice, I'm not going to go to the internet and write that.
Personally, I don't mind the title, and our own poll showed that fans are pretty evenly split down the middle, negative and positive. There's no TV news this week, so we jump straight into comic book news, where writer Greg Pak spoke to DC All Access about the Infected storyline currently playing through the major Superman comic books as part of the Superman Doomed saga. Here's a bit of what he had to say.
The big thing you need to know is that Superman is not quite himself. He fought Doomsday, apparently killed Doomsday, but something Doomsday-ish is still around, and whatever it is, it's inside of Superman. Imagine Doomsday as an insect, and imagine the Doomsday you always thought you knew just being the larval stage of this insect. Doomsday is growing, becoming more deadly, and it is now infected Superman. In fact, the name of this arc is Infected.
Paducah insurance executive John C. Wise decided to sell off his impressive comic book collection, which included a copy of Action Comics #1 from 1938. The auction at ComicConnect.com concluded earlier this week, fetching a whopping $1.5 million in total. His copy of Action Comics #1 sold for $172,000. Comic books we reviewed this week included Superman #31, which was reviewed by Adam DeChannel, who gave it a 4 out of 5, saying it was a nice action-packed farewell to the Lobdell era. James Lance reviewed Red Lantern #31, which featured Supergirl, saying this really was a good one, even if it did end too fast, and he rated it a 5 out of 5. Smallville Lantern Chapter 12 was reviewed by Matt Shaw, who said, I like intelligent, thought-provoking stories, and I also unapologetically like Big Dumb Popcorn Fest. This was neither, and he gave this final chapter a 1 out of 5. And from last week, T.A. Hewitt reviewed Batman Superman #11, saying this issue doesn't make much sense at all, and he gave it a 2 out of 5. Superman comics available this week from June 4th include Infinite Crisis Chapter 3 digital comic has been available since June 2nd, Action Comics #32, part of the Doom saga, which is available in a variant cover, Earth 2 #24, which is also available in a variant cover, Forever Evil #6 second printing, Justice League 3000 #7, Tiny Titans Return to the Treehouse #1, and Smallville Chaos Chapter 1 digital comic will be available June 6th. Take to the water in a range of great looking Superman and Supergirl swimming gear. Check out these boys' Man of Steel swim trunks available from $14.99. What about this Superman Learn to Swim flotation jacket, yours for $32.88? These and other great Superman swim gear are available from your one-stop Superman shop, the Superman homepage online store at supermanhomepage.com/shop. And in other news, don't forget that the annual Superman celebration is taking place next week across June 12th to June 15th in Metropolis, Illinois. And the Superman homepage will once again be holding a meet and greet for members and fans to come together, win great prizes and answer some fun trivia questions. The Superman homepage meet and greet is scheduled for Friday, June 13th at 10:30 AM inside Hardee's, which is not far from the Superman statue. Hosted by Ken and Cindy Sills, there will be prizes to be won and giveaways for everyone who shows up. During this year's Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois, the Metropolis Chamber of Commerce will host the first annual Super Power Band Bash with an auction and raffle to benefit Save the Massac, the organisation dedicated to the preservation and restoration of the Massac Theatre in downtown Metropolis. The bash will take place on Saturday, June 14th from 8 PM at the Baymont Theatre. Admission is $20. Get tickets at supermancelebration.net. Sony Online Entertainment announced that Supergirl is now available as an unlockable character in the DC Universe online video game as part of Update 37. Supergirl is now available on the Marketplace and Legends vendor. More info on Update 37 is available at dcuniverseonline.com. A study has shown that students who wore a Superman t-shirt while sitting for exams performed better and felt stronger and smarter. Students were put through mental ability tests and found that those wearing plain t-shirts gained an average of 64% compared with those in Superman t-shirts who scored an average of 72%. The results of the study have been published in Professor Pine's new ebook, Mind What You Wear, The Psychology of Fashion, available from our online store. The Superman homepage Super Trivia Quiz has been updated for another month. The 3 questions we're asking you this time around are: the words Lois Lane recites in Superman the movie are actually from a song titled Can You Read My Mind by which artist? In Superman 3, what song do Lana Lang and Clark Kent slow dance to at their high school reunion? And what is the title of the music Lois' son Jason plays on the piano in the movie Superman Returns? If you think you can answer all 3 questions, come by the site now to submit your entry. We end with the bittersweet story of 3-year-old Luke Campbell, who was born with a congenital heart condition. Sadly, his heart has gone into failure and doctors are unsure how long he has to live. Luke has always been called Mummy's little superhero or Super Luke and often imagines himself being able to fly. So when the Make-A-Wish Foundation asked him what his wish would be, Luke chose to fly like Superman. We wish him all the best. And that's all the Superman news there was for the week May 30th to June 5th. I'm Steve Younis from supermanhomepage.com.
Great Scott! Great Scott! Great Scott!
Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Scotty V, and this is Great Scott. Today I wanted to talk about the Justice League. Back in 2011, when the New 52 first launched, I read Justice League 1, and my intention was to pull Justice League as one of my books, and I just stopped doing it. Now I'm reading everything digitally, and I never got back to the Justice League stories. I guess 1 didn't do a lot for me. I didn't really love the way Superman was being portrayed, but it was early and he was an outsider and nobody really knew any of the heroes at that time. So this weekend I did a binge session and I caught up on all the books I was behind. This included Forever Evil, which stemmed from the Trinity War, which was in the Justice League, and Justice League Dark and Justice League of America books. And what that means is I caught up from Justice League 2 all the way up to Justice League 30, which just released this about 2 weeks ago. So so it was 2 weekends ago, not last week, that I caught up. And what I have to say is, if you haven't been reading Justice League because maybe you only care about Superman, or maybe you didn't like what you saw, and a lot of people didn't like and don't like the New 52 anyway. They don't like the Superman-Wonder Woman relationship because they love Lois, and I love him being with Lois too, and that's the thing we were used to for a while. But before that, Lois and he weren't together either, and a lot of their relationship was very antagonistic, and Lois was very disrespectful of Clark. So it's actually not the status quo that we think it is. It just happened to be our status quo for 15 or 20 years or so, which is a small portion of the 75 or more that he's been around now, that those two characters have been around now. But what I like and what I'm enjoying about Justice League, and why I'm going to continue reading it as long as it continues this way, is that it's a very cohesive story. There are story arcs that started with 1 and then end around 6 or something, and then start again at 7, and and they're all continued, and they all draw back on things that happened in stories before, and it really shows how the unit came together and how they started to get along. And even though they don't really, there was some complaint at the beginning that at the end of the Dark Side arc, which was the first arc at the beginning of the book, they flash forward ahead 5 years and they're still infighting in the team. I think sometimes, and with some characters and in some situations, it is going to take you more time than readers might think it should. You go, well, it's been 5 years. Shouldn't Green Lantern have matured a little bit? Stop trading barbs with people. Shouldn't we be past the point where Wonder Woman and Green Lantern have to fight with each other because they disagree on something? Maybe, and that is a point of contention that they're going for in the book, and it's something that, I think now that we're at 30 has kind of gone by the wayside, and they aren't fighting like that anymore. But I would really recommend reading the Justice League books. I love it. A lot of things come out of it that maybe you don't get from just reading the single books, and you go, something like Wonder Woman and Superman, how'd they get together? I mean, there's no real, they say in almost every book that they're not really right for each other, and yet here they are, and we didn't really see how it happened. And I complained in the beginning because when I heard it was happening, I just went to Justice League and read those parts that pertain to them kissing and becoming sort of romantic with each other. And when I saw it, I said, it seems to come out of left field, and it still kind of does. Although you can say, well, there's 5 years or more of a relationship between them, and in this hard period of time where she has to dismiss Steve Trevor and they've had a lot of stress going on, they're drawn to each other and they kiss, and then you start to see more of a development of that romance. And at this point, a big point of contention for people is that she still won't say she loves him. She still doesn't understand why he's Clark, but he's showing her these things, and you see it in the Justice League, and you see a development of a relationship, and I really like it. And I'm enjoying the way these stories move into each other. The Trinity War crossed over into Justice League Dark, and Justice League of America, and that stemmed into the next big arc in the DC Universe, which was Forever Evil, which included all those books too. And Forever Evil was great. So I feel like I have a more complete understanding of some of the things that are going on. There's still plot holes. There's still jumps and leaps of faith and leaps of logic. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that I finally caught up with it. I mean, I couldn't stop reading it. I read for 8 or 10 hours straight on both days, Saturday and Sunday, to catch myself up and to get with it. As a guy who talks about Superman and comics and things, I didn't have much of an opinion on Justice League other than the few points that I read to try and make sure I was up on what was going on with Superman. But Superman has a pretty large role, and the great thing about Justice League too is years past when I would read Justice League, a lot of times it was difficult, like with Star Trek The Next Generation or something, to give every character something important to do. But when you go to a Star Trek movie, a lot of times they try and space it out a little and use everybody to some importance, at least in the 2 new ones that have come out with the J.J. Abrams reboot. And that's kind of what they do in the Justice League book. There's Throne of Atlantis, which is a story arc that is centered on Aquaman and his brother Orin. But at the same time that's all going on, everybody's involved and everybody has things to do, and there's a plan, and there's a whole big Cyborg arc that has to do with Forever Evil, and there's a big Wonder Woman arc that tells a little bit about her, and Superman's central to a lot of what's going on all of the time. So I would really recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to keep reading it as long as it's going on. Jeff Johns says sometimes I run hot and cold on his work. I didn't love Secret Origin back before the New 52, the Superman Secret Origin one, the 4 or 5 part, whatever it was. I didn't like a lot of the things that happened there. I'm not crazy about Metallo in the New 52, which I think is a Jeff Johns thing, and it stems over from that Secret Origin Superman story back before the New 52. But, there are some things I love. I love the way Steel's being portrayed, even though we don't really have a complete understanding of how it went from he came about after the death of Superman in the Doomsday arc, but now he's here the way he is, and that was still supposed to have happened, so who knows what's going on. But I am enjoying the Justice League, and I would highly recommend it if you haven't read it or aren't reading it. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and remember, for justice, chum!